We're concluding our discussion here on the recent Supreme Court of Canada ruling that said the carbon tax that was federally mandated is constitutional, much to the chagrin of many of the provinces, especially the three that were petitioning the federal Supreme Court of Canada. So let me ask this to you, Dr. Dwight Newman. Provinces have jurisdiction over their natural resources. Help me understand how this allowance allows for a carbon tax, because obviously there's going to be a lot of taxation now on these resources. But how does this work, given that we're supposed to have separation between the federal and the provincial governments, and now the federal government has been basically greenlit to carry on?
Sure. So the provinces in Canada have a lot of powers. Canada is a big place, a diverse place, and part of respecting that national diversity is respecting the powers of the different provinces. And amongst those are these powers related to natural resources. The federal government can sometimes slip into some sorts of roles where it regulates on some resource issues where there's a federal power that lets them do that. And so sometimes they do that through the fisheries power or through the criminal law power. In this case, the court said that they could do that through the National Concern Branch of the Peace, Order and Good Government power. But something about that does rankle with the control that the provinces are meant to have over natural resources, which in 1982, in the negotiations about the constitutional amendments, this was a crucial clause to provinces like not just Alberta, but Saskatchewan as well. Both said that that was a deal breaker, the addition of a clause to clarify and make as secure as possible their natural resource jurisdiction. And now we're seeing something that seems to eat away at that
right.
to a lot of people in those provinces.
Yeah, it's quite a concerning precedent there. And then, of course, every province being different, I mean, if they have to go forward and impose a carbon tax, I guess at the end of the day, I ask myself, is really setting a price on carbon or carbon pricing or whatever term that is used by the federal government, I just like to call it a carbon tax. But is this really the best approach to addressing environmental concerns? And again, nobody's debating climate change. We all know it's real, but is really this the best way to approach it? Peter McCaffrey?
Well, without being facetious, the answer is maybe. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. What we've lost from the Supreme Court of Canada case is the ability for different provinces to try different things and see what works. And, the whole point of confederation is that no one size fits all, that different provinces are different, they can try different things. And through that competition, through that experimentation of different policies, we as a country gain because we are able to see which ideas work and which don't, and then we can adapt over time. What we have now is a single rule coming down from the federal government requiring everybody to do the same thing, and we lose that opportunity. And don't expect that this will stop with the current federal government either. This runs both ways. I think one of the dangers of this precedent is that this could be used by a future government of a different persuasion to try and require minimum standards or national standards for all sorts of other issues, in ways that those supporting the carbon tax may not be happy with as well. So that's the other thing to consider. This will continue, and it could become an arms race between different political parties of imposing new rules from Ottawa.
Okay, and practically speaking, how will this imposition of the carbon tax impact the average Canadian family? I think everybody wants to know, especially coming out of the COVID economic downturn here, how will this new tax impact me at the end of the day?
Well, for many people, they will be receiving rebates, and the federal government has leaned on that argument very heavily. But the reality is that many other people will not receive in rebates the same amount they pay. It is a redistribution of wealth in that sense. For Alberta specifically, you talked about Alberta signing up to Confederation on a whole series of conditions around control of resources. I think for Albertans, the question now is, would we have signed up to the deal we now find ourselves in? And I think the pretty clear answer is no. The federal government demands approval of projects within Alberta. They demand approval and often reject pipelines. The threat of regulation prevents the construction of pipelines. And now our natural resources can be taxed and regulated by Ottawa as well. So for Albertans specifically, as opposed to all Canadians, that basically we do not have control of our natural resources anymore.